see, try to move stuff around while trying to look professional and not messing stuff up. Not looking at myself on the monitor too much. Anyway, welcome back to the It Bees Like That podcast. I'm host Chris. Today, I'm going to talk about a few things, man. Just kind of wanted to spam some thoughts on video, see where things go. The first thing I want to talk about is I find myself in conversations pretty frequently with people about building or gaining muscle. And most of the time what I find during these conversations, and I ask just a few simple questions to figure out, one, where people's heads are at, two, what their nutrition is like, and three, what their training and recovery programming looks like. Most of the time what I see is people are overtrained, underfed, underrested, and they're ready to look how they want to look, but they're not ready to look how they need to look in the interim or on the way to that look, right? Because rarely will you see, not that it's impossible, but more likely than not, what you're going to see with someone, especially someone who's transitioning into a bulking or a massing phase, is if historically they are a person who's been leaner, more athletic looking, whatever, it's had like a leaner aesthetic, you'll see them soften a bit. You'll see them get a little stronger if everything is set up right. And in some cases, they'll look full for sure, but you'll start to see their faces round out a bit. You'll start to see their muscles looking fuller, a bit smoother, a bit more washed out. They still should have some degree of muscle separation in their quads, triceps, slight bit in the biceps, delts, just being able to see the separation between tricep and delt, really, and not so much each individual deltoid muscle. And especially in the morning, at least an outline of some abdominals, right? It doesn't need to be hard and shredded, but this will give you a good baseline general framework for what you should see in the morning before fluids and food and after going to the bathroom. Generally what you should expect to see on a daily basis. If things start to get a bit softer during that process, then something that the first place that I would go to is to adjust food intake, maybe for a week or two, see things level out a bit, and then slowly bring things back up. This is one thing that I see people do too, is they'll bring food up way too quickly. Now, 30 grams of carbs is not lightweight shit. Like that's a moderate to significant increase in calories. And doing increments like that gives you more of an element of control, right? If you were to bring it up 90 to 100 grams of carbs, it's going to be difficult for you to really know. Like, you'll see a response in your body for sure. But the more optimal response may have been at 30, 40, 50 grams at max, right? And not just 100 gram carb jump. Because then you might see yourself really wash out, get really, really, really soft, and a look that you really don't like. And for a lot of people, it's really hard to separate that from their leanest look and how they feel most of the time looking that way, and then transitioning into a massing or a bulking phase. Anyway, so backing up just a bit. When I talk to people about their nutrition, I say, I just want to get my arms bigger, or I want to get my legs bigger, or my chest, or I'd like to be this weight. And I don't think those goals are mistakes. I just wonder if for most people, the overall goal shouldn't be just like an overall improvement, small improvements to fullness of the quads, small improvements to fullness of the delts, triceps, or like really prioritizing your weaker muscle groups, bringing fullness and depth to those muscles. That's really going to improve your look. Really, really going to improve your look versus just gaining a bunch of weight and, getting a little fat, and then maybe your chest gets bigger, but your hamstrings still are underdeveloped, and it just doesn't bring a really good look for your legs. Anyway, so I asked them, well, what are you doing for nutrition? Well, I'm still at a deficit. The conversation is over right there. The conversation is over right there. And they can tell by the look on my face, because they most of the time will say, and it usually takes a few times talking to me before they understand rather quickly where I'm going to counter them with their logic, right? So they said, well, I'm still at a deficit. And I just give them a look like, I know, I should be eating more, maybe more of the right, I'm just not eating the right foods. Listen, man. So while I do say that it is more optimal to eat single ingredient whole foods, these are foods that are nutrient dense and easier to manage in a way that there's not as much guesswork, right? And there's not a lot of additives and other GMOs and tons of sodium and things that are really hard to mitigate or track. It just relieves you of a lot of the stress and guesswork that more highly processed foods have, right? So the more calorie dense foods versus the more nutrient dense foods. We're gonna lean towards more of the nutrient dense foods. So again, that's single ingredient whole foods. Stuff like the shit you hear about all the time: chicken, sweet potatoes, rice. I'm not a big fan of brown rice. I never eat it. And what I find most of the time is people don't know how to cook and prepare brown rice, so they end up cooking the husks off, which is what slows digestion for brown rice. So it just ends up tasting like shit, but metabolizing in the same way that white rice does. So why put yourself through it? Anyway, you get the gist of the single ingredient whole foods. And I say that because overall, to your body, it doesn't have like departments that say, oh, hey guys, this stuff over here is from McDonald's, so we're just going to automatically want to store that as fat. This protein over here is from a double quarter pounder. This protein over here is from a 6-ounce Wagyu steak. The body doesn't do that. However, the single ingredient whole food foods that are more nutrient dense, those are going to be more efficient for the body to process, again, because there are not a lot of the unnatural additives that come along with it, the extra work, right? We're just getting to the meat and potatoes, no pun intended, and the nitty gritty, the heartbeat of the issue. So again, I won't say that there are any right or wrong foods, because we all know, we've heard all over the YouTubes and Googles and about calorie deficit. You can eat McDonald's at a deficit and still lose weight. Now, is that optimal? No, because again, there are a lot of other things that come with that McDonald's food that we probably don't want to get a steady diet of on a regular basis. But if we're talking just within the context of weight loss, sure, these things can work. With that in mind, I will often hear people say things like, oh, I eat so much. Now, this typically comes from people who've not had a ton of experience eating volumes of single ingredient, whole food, nutrient dense foods. These are people who grew up on 3 squares a day, who likely have gotten most of their macros from truck stop food and AM, PM taquitos and stuff like that. Then when you sit them down and even just give them like 3 square meals of just like 3 square home cooked meals, to them, they're eating a lot of food because it's not that calorie dense, just super calorie dense, not nutrient dense, big difference. Foods that they're used to that they don't have to eat as much of. So visually, you're getting a smaller stimulus. But as far as calories go, it's super packed with just fats and sugars and processed yucky nastiness, right? Now, when you switch over to single whole ingredient, nutrient dense foods, you can look at my food for the day at like 3,000 to 3,200 calories a day. And especially were I not to supplement like 75 grams of protein of my daily nutrition through protein drinks, the amount and volume of food that I would eat just to hit my numbers every day is pretty big. And that's only 3,200 calories. So that's not even touching guys that are like 44, 45, 5,000, 6,000 calories. It gets nutty, right? And that can be intimidating. When I send, people ask me, well, what do you eat? I'll send them some screenshots of my Fitness Pal for the day. They're like, oh, dude, I couldn't possibly eat that much food. Well, you could, right? And for a lot of people, it takes practice. But mostly where I see the big challenge come for people is they still have this really deep-rooted idea that less food is best food. And that is ridiculous. That's like saying, if I have a Ferrari, if I keep it at a quarter tank all the time, it's going to run tip-top shape for the duration of the time that I own the car. That is ridiculous. Silly. Same thing with oil and coolant. If I just keep the bare minimum in there and just redline that mother, it's going to run at tip-top shape for however long I have the car. Same thing, right? You need to feed your body. Most people I see in the gym are in there working their asses off, and they just look so discouraged because they're flat and depleted, and they have no idea what it would be like to get up, hydrate, get 60 to 80 grams of carbs, 40 to 50 grams of protein, a little bit of fat in there, and some electrolytes, and maybe 24 to 40 ounces of water, and wait an hour and a half, and then go to the gym. The kind of ridiculous pump and like the energy and the strength they would have during that training session would blow people away. But it's so tough for people to be full because they're so used to living this POW mindset where less is best and depleted is if you're not depleted, you're defeated, right? It's just this wacky shit, man. And if I could get through to them the importance of a well-fed body, well-fed, well-rested, and well-hydrated body, a lot more people would quit fitness. I guarantee you. And I've seen it time and time again, especially with new clients who have been athletes in high school and college. They see like what real fitness takes, the level of dedication to nutrition, the amount of food you're going to need to eat, the amount of time you're going to need to prep it. And people bemoan this like it's just the hardest thing they've ever been proposed to have to do in their life. It's wild. And that's why I always say that convenience complicates life way too much. Get into the practice, and I say this all the time, but get into the practice of buying the food, cooking the food, and eating the food. You're not going to miss that hour and a half. I can prep 3 days of food in a half an hour like that. And I'm talking about dishes done, everything put away, counters wiped down. I'm on the couch watching TV, and my food is ready for the next 3 days. It is possible. You can do it all. You're worth the effort. Because on the other side of that minor amount of inconvenience is the aesthetic, the performance, the social connectedness that is natural and it's okay to want. It's all just on the other side of this stuff that we should do every day for the most important thing that we own outside of our living soul is this body. Yeah, man, come on. This is day one stuff, you know. And if you don't like going to the gym, learn to like it. Learn to like it, because the jury's out, the studies are back in, the data proves it. There's nothing like strength and weight training, bodybuilding style strength and weight training for health and longevity. Period. It's just nothing. Everything else is second place. Everything. There's a lot of good other healthy, lifestyles. You know what I mean? But we're talking about living longer, performing better, and at our best. Overall general sense of well-being. The proof is in the pudding. It's bodybuilding. Period. Now, you don't have to be Mrs. or Mr. Olympia to reap the benefits of bodybuilding. It's a style of training, hypertrophy training. Oh, it's so boring. Well, cry me a river. Do Parcheesi in your spare time. Figure other stuff out. If you want to live longer, feel better, perform better, lift weights. It's that simple. Just 3 or 4 times a week. Even 1 or 2 to start. Lift weights. There's no way around it. That's what you got to do if you want to be your best. It's the way it is. Look it up and fight me on it. It's the truth. Can't get around it. Sorry. Well, if you didn't do it on the way in, please do it on the way out. Think about it anyway. All the support really helps, and I appreciate it. Hit that like, subscribe, post notification bell so you can stay up to date on all the crazy badassery and semi-goofy shit that we talk about here on the Bees Like That podcast. I'm your host, Chris. I'll see y'all next time. Peace, y'all.